Welcome to Websummit. I have a fabulous guest here. It's Anna Connor-Lakomy, and she's going to be telling me a little bit about her startup. Now, I'm in the front, you should be in the front.
No, I think that's fine. You're
Okay.
the presenter. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So, no, let's change it.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna feel on the spot.
Okay. No, that's better. That's better. It's more, yeah. And I can cheat a bit more. Okay. I'll move a bit closer. Sorry. Hi, and welcome to the Web Summit. I have a fabulous guest for you today, and I will be introducing Anna Connor-Lakomy about her startup. Now, yesterday there was a fantastic session, wasn't there?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And it was about creativity and about how it's not normal. And what she meant by that was, you know, the people that are being creative aren't normal, whatever normal is, right? And this lady was Kim Laurie, so big shout out for Kim. I think I was sitting next to two girls that I went there with who I just happened to meet, you know, during the day.
Sure.
And they were like, I didn't realize that. And one of them was going, I do that all the time, you know, like that's how I use ADHD. That's how I use AI. So it was a real eye-opener, not just for the neurodiverse people in the audience, which she said was only about half of the audience, and the other half of the audience were probably neurotypical. So she had tips and tricks for us both. And then I joined the Polish little WhatsApp group that we have here, because on the first day they said that this year there are more, like there's an increase in Polish startups, but a decrease in German ones. So let's find out what that's all about. So Anna, tell me first of all a bit about your startup.
Sure. So my startup's called Bring Architects. We're an alpha startup this year because we are socially impactful, I guess.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we try to create solutions that would be neuro-inclusive for the organizations. We primarily focus on B2B market just now, but we also hope to move to B2C so we can actually help the individuals as well.
Right. One step at a time.
Exactly.
Very
one
good.
Step at a time. So we've been actually, because we've been working with my business partner as consultants for years in Poland, and what we do is we apply the cutting edge neuroscience into business and self-development. And we've been getting more and more requests about helping neurodiverse people in the companies, developing the neurodivergent support groups and employee webs, etc. And there is a really big gap in diagnostic tools and in the ways we can actually manage those communities.
Yeah.
Because even if you get the
It's actually really hard to get a diagnosis, let's face it.
It's very hard to get a diagnosis.
I don't know where you're living, right? But in Germany and in the UK, sometimes you'll be waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years to even get to see a doctor. And that's just the start, right? So getting a diagnosis is a year before we actually have the diagnosis. So when you get to the beginning of the queue, I remember thinking, right, that's it. But actually it's a bit more long-winded, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you know, you're basically talking about just getting the diagnosis, and we are trying to tackle the problem. What happens after you get the diagnosis?
Yeah.
Because that's another mountain that you have to
it's a big
climb.
gap.
Yeah. So we found out that we need a solution. I was actually myself one of those people that I got diagnosed with my ADHD after my son was born.
Right.
It was never a thing for me my
It's
whole
often
life.
the case, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously there's multiple reasons for it. It's not just that the environment around you changes, but it's also the oxytocin levels that basically manage the dopamine. So it's, you know, neurobiology plus the environment that sometimes hit you. So I got diagnosed with the ADHD, and basically what I got was you can either take medication or just educate yourself and try and get through it. And that is it, you know, when you talk to a psychiatrist.
Goodbye, good luck.
You know, exactly. But you don't really know what the problem actually is. So I spent myself a year researching what my problem with ADHD is. And so we've realized...
And did you find when you were doing the research, a lot of people talk about the symptoms, like how it affects them, but they do not tell you what to do about it.
Exactly, and also the symptoms are still not the roots.
No, that's the surface level. That's what
exactly.
Yeah.
So there's still a step between the diagnosis and the actual symptoms, and this is what we were trying to research. So we found out huge meta-analysis, and we're both, you know, researching neuroscience. So we found that executive functions tends to be that filter. So basically, executive functions, for everybody who's not familiar with neuroscience or psychology, they're basically your director. So they basically tell you how you plan, how you organize,
Right.
how you inhibit your impulses.
Or how you don't organize.
Or how you don't organize, exactly. Or both of them can be either do or don't. Exactly. Emotional regulation, that's another big one, right? So there's a very sort of common model that's being used that's called Goldstein model, and it has 9 Goldstein model. It has 9 executive functions that you can measure. And then there's also another part of it, which is sensory processing. So if you look at all the senses, and we have about 34 senses, not 6, so there's lots of them.
Right.
You know, it's not just hearing, seeing, but it's also interoception, the way you feel or not feel your body, right? And this is the most common thing with neurodiverse people, that they can actually have something that's called hyperfocus. So usually our focus should last for about 3 hours. But if you have ADHD or autism spectrum, it can last for hours, right?
Yeah.
So you
and
actually
then you're burnt out afterwards.
Exactly.
Like, it's like hits you like a wall.
Yeah, because you can't feel what's happening to you. You don't know if you're hungry, if you're cold, if you're tired. You don't
really function because you're in the zone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You just focus on this one thing. It's something that we call mainly in ADHD, but it's the same with autism. It's an interest-based nervous system, right? Because it gets obsessed and fixated with a specific topic. That's why it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Talking about the creativity.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's exactly that.
You know, you can see it as a risk, but you can also see it as an opportunity if
Exactly.
you have the right mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're trying to measure those both sides. We know that there's people that are hypersensitive, so they will feel more extremely, or people who are hyposensitive, so they feel way less and they need more stimulation and they're looking for stimulation.
And you know, the thing about that is, if you are like that, it's very exhausting, right? Because you are taking everything in, there's no filter, and then at the end of the day, you're like, or not even at the end of the day, before your meds wear out, wear off, you're often feeling like, oh my goodness, like,
Yeah,
too much. Yeah,
absolutely. So, so you're basically tackling the problem here, because we've realized that we have to measure it, all of those elements, on a subjective level. So we need to know obviously what people think about their problems. Do they see it as a problem or not? But there's also the objective measurement, where we actually measure all of those elements, and we can tell you you're within the norm, you're under, or you're above. And so that gives us a graph, basically a visualization of your neurobiological profile, that then allows us to measure the gap between your perception and the objective measurement. And the bigger the gap, the higher risk of burnout on that specific area. Right? So we're trying to do this, and very quickly, the funny, maybe not funny, it's actually quite sad thing is that when we started selling this and talking to companies, they very quickly came back to us and said, why is it just for neurodiverse people? We actually have the same problems,
Yeah.
So
and it's the same if you look at schools, right?
Exactly.
Very often, if they went back to the roots, like the pedagogical roots that make you a good teacher, you will be inclusive by design.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So there is even this concept, since you touched the topic, that's called universal design. We worked with some neuro-architects in Poland as well. And they actually, the universal design is something in architecture that basically means we're not remodeling the space just to fit in the disabled people or people with disabilities, but we're actually creating spaces that can be easily accessed by everybody. So even if you say, like basically if you have a ramp instead of stairs, that doesn't exclude people that have legs, right?
It just includes. It's actually quite nice going up a ramp.
Exactly. So it includes everyone, right? It's a simple solution.
Yeah, it's a simple solution.
Yeah.
In fact, I should have worn a different T-shirt. I have a T-shirt at home saying, "Inclusivity hurts no one."
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so how exactly then are you helping? What exactly do you do to do that?
Sure. So with this tool, what we want to do is we want to find. So it's either for people who just have issues with, they're close to burnout, or they struggle with their focus, right? Or they have some mental health issues and they have no idea what's happening, because all the things that we're measuring are below the surface. Yeah. So they're not behavioral.
Right.
In many ways, like the adaptive behaviors.
And you probably don't know you're doing it or not doing
exactly,
it. Yeah.
Exactly. So you receive all the information. The statistic that I always share with people is that there was a research done by Deborah Ancona in MIT in 2021, and she said that our brain daily receives about 35 gigabytes of information.
Right.
And there was a research done last year in UK actually that already said it's 75 gigabytes.
Oh, okay.
So that's 4 years, and we've doubled the amount of information.
Well, we have a lot coming at us now, don't
Exactly.
we? With all our devices.
Exactly, it's coming from everywhere. Even Websummit, I love the event, but it's exhausting.
It is.
It's exhausting, and it's mainly exhausting on a subconscious level, because you're just receiving all this stimulation from lights, from noise, from
music,
so it's really, really exhausting to your body. And you can be extremely smart, but you're still gonna, at some point your brain's just gonna shut down. So
and can I just touch on something there? So very often in companies, there's this kind of unspoken misunderstanding that, having to help somebody who is less than you, because they have one of these issues, maybe it's dyslexia, being dyslexic, having Tourette's, ADHD, autism, all kinds of things, blind, deaf, whatever. That's not necessarily going to slow you down. That will actually long-term speed you up because you have more innovation, more productivity, so it's good all round. But it's actually at the moment, as she explained yesterday, it's the big companies that are taking advantage of it. Okay, they've got more dollars behind them, right? But it's actually not a case of dollars. A lot of the time it's to do with mindset, right? And that doesn't cost anything.
Absolutely, and we actually have clients in Poland that have already implemented recruitment strategies for neurodiverse people because we know that's something we know we do have to make it differently, right?
That's absolutely the case, absolutely.
You're gonna, and even, the one thing that I still remember one of our clients said when they created this, so it's a huge corporation, they've created this inclusion program for recruitment, and he said, the most important thing for me was to realize that when you ask somebody who's neurodivergent about their skills, you can't ask them what is your level of mastery of that skill because they're always going to underrate themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to give them tasks.
Yeah.
You have to actually check this
you.
Because you're going to see, like he was giving examples of some mathematical equations, and he's like, you're going to ask them, what do you know about this? And they're going to say, oh, nothing. And they're going to actually ask them the questions, and you realize that they know 90% more than a professor at the mathematics.
Yeah.
And they were shocked by this at first. So they very quickly realized that you have to make hands-on recruitment instead of asking
What was the name of that company? Can you remember?
I can, but I'm not sure if I can talk about it.
Okay, all right then, no problem. We understand that.
Sure.
Okay, well, I'm going to wrap up now, but one last question I'd like to ask you about Polish startups.
Sure.
So at the opening ceremony, they announced that there were less German startups here this year, and as you know, I lived in Germany for 30 years almost, than there are Polish startups. Fascinating. So now I need to know, why is that?
Why? I'm sure there's many different responses to that question. One of them is, I think, I don't think, it's the statistics, that we definitely have one of the highly skills human capital in terms of IT, right? So people in Poland,
a lot more people are studying IT.
Yes, but also the level of the skills.
Right.
So like the quality of education and the quality of the skills is I think higher. I think there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is also that we just basically became the hub, the operational hub for many huge corporations because we were cheaper than West Europe and the West world.
Okay.
So it somehow became our advantage.
Okay, great.
In the long run.
I'm glad to hear that.
Because people in Poland are very entrepreneurial.
Hardworking, right?
Absolutely, yes.
I don't know any Polish person that's lazy. Like all the Polish people I know are like eager beavers.
Yeah.
And they want to do it right, no cutting corners.
Absolutely, that's very true. We do still believe that hard work is the way to do it. Although it is becoming less and less strong because
society is evolving. That's fair enough.
In general, people I think are just a bit resigned after. They're just tired. They're just exhausted after COVID. So this is a problem in Poland as well. But in general, I think what it did, it actually sort of helped us in a way because we started realizing that there's better ways, maybe smarter ways of doing work.
Nice.
So people actually started looking, instead of working longer hours, how can I do it faster? How can I do it smarter?
Great.
So it actually boosts the entrepreneurship in Poland. And there's one factor I think that, because I happen to be a social scientist, so there's one factor I think that we've identified in mental toughness. If you look at the mental toughness model, there's one element that is control over your own life. And this is one of the factors that we always score the highest in Poland.
Right.
We score really low on emotional control.
Right.
So it's both basically, because emotional control basically means that you know what's happening to you, you understand your emotions, but you also know what you want to let out, right?
Right, okay.
So
that's actually quite healthy.
That's extremely healthy, I'm saying, and we struggle with that,
Yeah.
right? So you either don't allow yourself to be emotional
Oh, I
at
see.
all.
They don't let themselves.
Exactly.
Oh, right. Okay.
Usually it would be probably the problem with not allowing ourselves to be emotional, because we're very tough. Like there's no, excuse. Our kids always have to be very tough. To give you an idea, my son goes to a trilingual school, to a trilingual kindergarten actually.
What kind of?
Trilingual. So there's a Polish, English, and Spanish taught in the kindergarten.
Trilingual. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and he has an American teacher, and she said, they have a cobblestone that goes down from the school to the playground. And she said, this is actually extraordinary, and this is something I only see in Poland, that you allow the kids to actually work with the environment they find themselves in. That cobblestone would never happen in US, because
Right.
that have to be a very clean, smooth
Dangerous,
pavement. Exactly.
yeah.
Immediately have lawsuits, right? In Poland, what we do is we basically take down the rope. The kids, hold onto the rope, and you teach them how to go down that path.
Right, okay.
Instead of just removing the barrier.
So
right?
instead of removing barriers, you're
teaching
enabling them
yeah.
through barriers.
And that was beautiful.
Nice.
So I always talk about this, because I think it's a beautiful metaphor of
Yeah.
how we work in Poland. It's sometimes counterproductive and it's exhausting to us, but it gives us the
long
control.
term, yeah.
So you feel in control of your life, and it helps you reduce the anxiety, I think.
Fantastic. And in Germany, there's not really a lot of support for young, upcoming businesses, even SMEs. Really, it's pretty much like, if you want to do it, do it.
Yeah.
Is that different in Poland?
Yes, it's definitely changed in the last years. So we have a lot of different programs looking into Polish ecosystem. We don't have a long history, right? It's quite a brief history with that, but I mean, the support is really coming. We have a lot of universities, a lot of VCs looking, to even from US or different parts that are looking into what we do and how are the innovations actually going. And the one thing I think that's our strongest right now is the fintech. So
Right.
I
heard about that. The
exactly.
payment side,
So
yeah.
we were talking about this the whole week basically now, because we even did the masterclass, as a Polish ecosystem on fintech, because we have incredible solutions that are not available anywhere else.
Yeah.
I sometimes is shocked when I go to US or I go somewhere else and I realize I can make a payment with my phone. We have something that's called Bleak payment, which you basically you share a code and you can just give the code to another person and they receive.
What's that called?
It's called Bleak.
Blick.
Yeah, nobody
Nice.
else has it, so it's quite incredible that you don't realize how
Yeah, you don't
advanced you are.
realize how brilliant it is until you go somewhere else.
Exactly,
Right?
and all of that progress happened in the last 20 years,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of interesting stuff happening, a lot of support, but I think we still struggle with the amount of money in the market. So our
Right.
investors are not as generous
Okay.
as the international or Western investors.
Okay, well, if you're a founder and you want to support some amazing fintech companies, if you want to
Yeah.
get involved with the Polish society, then I can really recommend you checking that out. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for the
we
chat.
had to go through the rain, so we're not looking our best. It's raining cats and dogs in Lisbon. And so thank you
Thank you
very
so much.
Have a great day.
You too, thank you for having me.
Bye.